Hello Sandeep and welcome on this On Air with Priyanka show. Being one of the top realtor in Winnipeg, कैसा लगता है? और वो भी एक इंडियन ओरिजिन के। जहाँ तक मुझे पता है आई थिंक आपके घर में कोई रियल्टर नहीं है। कैसे इंस्पिरेशन आपको मिली कि रियल्टर में जाना है? क्योंकि मोस्टली लोग बोलते हैं कि यार मुझे इंजीनियर बनना है, मुझे डॉक्टर में जाना है। सो हम ये जर्नी के बारे में जानना चाहेंगे। कितने साल हो गए आपको बीइंग एज अ रियल्टर?
Been an active realtor for 6 years now.
Wow.
There were some challenges as being a brand new realtor. One of the challenges I was speaking to my parents about, they were quite nervous of me entering real estate at first.
Yes.
My original intentions were I wanted to become a lawyer. I work 7 days a week. Years 1 to 3 will be very difficult. You're not guaranteed to make any money.
Exactly.
In your first startup years.
तो अगर देखा जाए तो क्या रियल एस्टेट में इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी चाहिए? इसमें रिस्क होता है? अगर कोई इंडिया से अगर बंदा आता है और अगर उसको कैनेडियन रियल एस्टेट में अगर इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी है तो वो कर पाएंगे कि नहीं?
There's a foreign international ban until 2027.
Really? थ्रूआउट कनाडा की बात करें तो अभी हाउसिंग मार्केट का क्या सिचुएशन है? तो विच इज द बेस्ट टाइम टू बाय और सेल योर हाउसेस? Hello everyone, welcome back to another epic episode of On Air with Priyanka, जहां हम आपके लिए ऐसे गेस्ट को इनवाइट करते हैं जिनसे आप पर्सनली इंस्पायर हो सके। सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दिस पॉडकास्ट। सो आज की पॉडकास्ट की जो थीम है वो है दी रियल एस्टेट स्टोरी टाइम। सो घर लेना है, घर बेचना है, बैंक का इंटरेस्ट रेट ड्रॉप हो रहा है तो कभी बढ़ रहा है, रियल्टर बने या ना बने, पैसे मिलते हैं या ना मिले, लोन कहाँ से ले, इन सारे सवालों के आपको आज जवाब मिलेंगे इस पॉडकास्ट में। और हमारे आज पॉडकास्ट के जो गेस्ट है वो है मिस्टर संदीप सिंह। सो संदीप सिंह इज वन ऑफ द टॉप रियल्टर इन विनीपेग कैनेडा। ही एक्चुअली वर्क विद रॉयल लीपेज एंड ही इज करंटली वर्किंग विथ निकोल हैकॉल टीम। सो एंजॉय दिस एपिसोड एंड प्लीज वेलकम मिस्टर संदीप सिंह। Hello Sandeep and welcome back again on this On Air with Priyanka show and thank you so much कि आपने हाँ बोला as a guest.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Lots to talk about. I'm excited.
Nice. And how are you?
I'm doing great. We're in the start of 2025. There's a lot of excitement, questions in the air, but I think a lot of us are excited to start the new year with a lot of new opportunities. So overall, no complaints.
That's really nice संदीप। तो मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को आज बता दूं कि हमारे जो संदीप सिंह गेस्ट है ना, इनका बॉर्न एंड ब्रॉट अप ना प्रॉपर कनाडा का है, तो इनकी हिंदी जरा सी कमजोर है। सो व्यूअर्स काइंडली एडजस्ट टुडे। सो संदीप, बीइंग वन ऑफ द टॉप रियल्टर इन विनीपेग, कैसा लगता है? और वो भी एक इंडियन ओरिजिन के।
You know, it's a very interesting question because a lot of what real estate is, I tell a lot of people, real estate becomes a lifestyle. And so it goes from wanting to get into real estate, working it, but it does kind of translate to a lifestyle. And the lifestyle, it can be very fast paced with a lot of moving pieces that sometimes you don't have time to slow down and really think about where you are in the industry and how that goes. So even when you're asking me this question, for me to reflect onto that, it's not something I think of every day, but I'm honored to be recognized as a realtor within that caliber. It's definitely a good feeling, feeling very established. And I think that the journey never stops. Once the bar is set to that degree, it becomes a continuous, you have to keep performing because these are the expectations. I'm honored to bestow it. There's a lot of hard work, lots of people to thank. But honestly, I believe that real estate is a trust and empathy business. And trust and empathy is what the people expect at a high level.
Yes, you are absolutely right, Sandeep. और जहाँ तक मुझे पता है, आई थिंक आपके घर में कोई रियल्टर नहीं है। आई थिंक यू आर द फर्स्ट रियल्टर इन योर हाउस, राइट?
This is correct, yes.
So, कैसे इंस्पायर हुआ? मतलब क्योंकि आपकी एज बहुत छोटी है, मतलब देखा जाए, और आपने मुझे बताया था कि आई थिंक 40 इयर्स बिफोर आपके पेरेंट्स यहाँ पे सेटल हुए थे कनाडा में, राइट?
Yes.
So, मैं बोल सकती हूँ कि तब मैं भी पैदा नहीं हुई थी। तो कैसा, मतलब कैसे इंस्पिरेशन आपको मिली कि रियल्टर में जाना है? क्योंकि मोस्टली लोग बोलते हैं कि यार मुझे इंजीनियर बनना है, मुझे डॉक्टर में जाना है, या मुझे किसी एक इंडस्ट्री में जाना है, बट रियल्टर बहुत कम लोग सोचते हैं। सो हम ये जर्नी के बारे में जानना चाहेंगे।
It's funny you say that. I can't think of anyone that wakes up one day and they say I want to become a real estate agent. Maybe they're out there. I haven't met them yet, but it's quite rare. So my personal journey is pretty traditional. Growing up, I did go to post-secondary university, and my original intentions were I wanted to become a lawyer.
Oh.
So in my journey from the University of Manitoba, I did venture off, and I did actually go through the process of studying for the LSAT test, writing the LSAT test. And it was an interesting experience because I didn't get in initially, but I did not score bad enough where it deterred me away.
Yeah.
So I was in the in-between cycle of, this is what I want to do. It's going to happen. I just need to keep trying.
Exactly.
But in that time frame, studying and preparing for the tests, there's a lot of time that goes by in between every test write. And so in my journey, on the side, I wanted to get some income and experience because a lot of my friends, they had started working. They were either getting into their professional faculties, starting new businesses. Not saying what I was doing was necessarily wrong, but I was studying, but I also wanted to get some income and some experience while I was studying.
Wow.
And through some family suggestions, I was recommended to work in Manitoba Corrections.
Yeah.
Which is something completely opposite to what I do now, of course.
Yes, right.
But one thing led to another, and I did find myself working in Manitoba Corrections while I was studying for the next LSAT law school admissions test.
तो मतलब एक्सपीरियंस वहीं से आना स्टार्ट हो गया था.
Yes.
है ना? और कितने साल हो गए आपको बीइंग एज अ रियल्टर?
Working in real estate, I've been an active realtor for 6 years now.
Wow.
And so the time has flown by. The journey had gone. I had spent 4 years. I had spent my time in corrections working 4 years. And it was actually through corrections that I had found out that law school, maybe becoming a lawyer wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Only because in my time working in corrections, I actually had the chance to catch up with some friends.
Yeah.
They got into law school and they began working, and reconnecting with them and asking them what their experience were like. It sounded like their experiences, it wasn't exactly what they thought it was going to be.
Yes.
And that internally changed my perspective on what I wanted to do because my background was very similar to their background.
Yep.
I didn't have any family in the legal world.
Oh.
A lot of the work and the experience that they were doing is what I would have to do. And seeing them do that, it kind of turned me away from the idea. So I continued to work in in corrections. But in that time of corrections, it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And to summarize, I actually got too burnt out of working in corrections. It was part-time shift work. And real estate was never a serious idea in that time. And
I completely understand. मतलब इतना easy नहीं है realtor होना. चलो realtor बन भी गए, but जब client की बात आती है, जब उनको convince करने की बात आती है, तो it's not easy. So did you face any challenges that time कि क्योंकि घर में कोई realtor नहीं है और एक friends और family का अगर कोई suggestion रहता है, तो मतलब अगर आप ऑन फील्ड पे जाते हो तो इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट, राइट? और बीइंग एज अ इंडियन ओरिजिन ये काफ़ी डिफिकल्ट होता है क्योंकि इनके कंट्री में आके इन्हीं लोगों को घर बेचना.
Yes. The transition, it's like the transition to entering real estate. So eventually when I had gotten so burnt out of corrections, I made the whim to go into real estate. And I told myself, whether I love it or hate it, the potential for a better lifestyle, more work satisfaction, and life satisfaction. In my mind, it existed in real estate. And I said, I'm going to get into this. And whether I love it or hate it, I'm going to see it through. Once I got into real estate, there were some challenges as being a brand new realtor. The unspoken rule with real estate that I tell anybody, anyone looking into it, is your years 1 to 3 will be very difficult. You're not guaranteed to make any money.
Exactly.
In your first startup years. And you're exactly right. There's so many realtors, not just of Indian origin in Winnipeg, but within the city, there's approximately, I want to say, 2,200 agents in the city.
Oh.
So it's a very saturated market.
और ये सिर्फ विनीपेग की बात, राइट?
Yes.
मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को बता दूं, कनाडा में सेम इंडिया जैसे ना अलग अलग स्टेट है और हर एक स्टेट का ना एक अलग क्राइटेरिया रहता है. एक घर की कीमत ना उसके फ्लैट से उसके मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा होती है, राइट? तो और मुझे जितना पता है कि विनीपेग उसमें बहुत कम है. और अगर आपने अभी जो नंबर बताया, अगर ये विनीपेग का है, इमेजिन करो अगर हम टोरंटो और ओटावा साइड गए तो वहाँ पे कितने होंगे?
It would be double or triple.
Yeah.
But the initial challenges were, and it goes without saying, if once you get into such a saturated industry, the question is, well, why would I want to work with Sandeep, he's brand new, when I could work with somebody else who's been around forever?
Absolutely.
And so that was your initial challenge, and exposure, getting yourself known is the first obvious challenge.
Of course.
Luckily, with my background of having some work and income experience, there's a lot of upfront costs when it comes to real estate. Startup costs, you have to pay for your licensing, there's a lot of upfront expenses when you first start real estate. One of the challenges I was speaking to my parents about, they were quite nervous of me entering real estate at first.
Yes.
One of the challenges they had spoken about was they knew my abilities to work and my education levels, but they said, you should be very fluent in all languages,
Yes.
which is very important.
Yes.
And they are correct. I was a little bit hesitant at first, but one of the things I found in my career was the language barrier surprisingly has not affected me to any degree. And I think that the expectations of the trust and empathy,
Yes.
that is the most important thing. And if people can put that aside, and if people are okay with English, of course, the expectation is if you work hard, you're a transparent, good working person.
Yes.
That is the ultimate bottom line. And that I think is what has made me reputable. And a lot of my business is repeat clients, referrals and word of mouth just based off of my relationship with them.
वर्ड ऑफ माउथ मैं बोलती हूँ कि बहुत ज़रूरी होता है. अगर मैं आपकी दोस्त हूँ या आपकी मैं रिश्तेदार हूँ तो मैं ऑफ कोर्स आपको सपोर्ट ही करूँगी. अगर आप कहीं किसी घर बेचने जा रहे हो या किसी को अगर हेल्प भी कर रहे हो तो ये बहुत अच्छी आपने बात बोली कि वर्ड ऑफ माउथ. एक मिसकंसेप्शन भी होता है रियल्टर के बारे में. मतलब अगर मेरा कोई अगर रियल्टर फ्रेंड है तो मैं शायद उसको उसी नज़र से देखूंगी, अरे यार ये मुझे फिर कुछ बेचने के लिए आ गया, अरे यार ये मुझे अभी कुछ ना कुछ बोलेगा कि अब फ्लैट ले लो, घर ले लो. तो ये मिसकंसेप्शन क्यों होती है?
I think one misconception is a lot of people think it's quick and easy.
Yes.
And you look at anyone in the real estate industry, a lot of what they produce is just their success stories.
Yeah.
I just sold this, I'm just listing this, I just received this. So it's very easy for the consensus to feel that real estate is a quick and easy job. Wow, this person started in a couple of months, they already have a listing.
Yeah.
Not saying that's not true. It's like I said, once you start working in the field and you dedicate yourself full time, it becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah,
and you need to learn how to balance the lifestyle because this is not a job.
Exactly.
Even in this interview, as we're speaking, there could be people trying to get a hold of me wanting to do business. And so it becomes a balance of how can you prioritize your work and your personal life to do things outside of just working.
Exactly.
And I think that is probably the biggest misconception. So it is not quick and it is not easy.
Exactly. It's not quick and it's not easy. मेरे लास्ट 2 पॉडकास्ट में मेरे जो गेस्ट थे ना उन्होंने भी यही बोला था कि इट्स नॉट अ इजी केक राइड कि बस आपने मांगा और आपको मिल गया. सो संदीप, आपने जो बताया अभी मिसकंसेप्शन के बारे में, क्लाइंट के बारे में, तो हाउ डू यू कनेक्ट विथ योर क्लाइंट? क्योंकि अगर मैं निकलती हूँ अपने घर से बाहर और मेरे पास थोड़ी सेविंग्स है और अगर मुझे मेरा पहला घर खरीदना है, वेदर इट इज़ अ 1 BHK 2 BHK छोटा अपार्टमेंट, एक घर रहो, राइट? बट आप कैसे उस क्लाइंट के साथ कनेक्ट करते हो? क्योंकि हर चीज़ प्रोफेशनल लेवल पे नहीं होती है. आपको उसको समझना पड़ता है, राइट? तो आप कैसे कनेक्ट होते हो?
Everyone is different.
Yeah.
And we know there's lots of real estate agents. Everyone's different. The way I truly feel the best way to connect is first of all, I'm very easy to get a hold of. I work 7 days a week. I take very little time off.
ये मुझसे अच्छे से ज़्यादा कौन जानता होगा, क्योंकि मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को बता दूं कि मैंने सर को जब कांटेक्ट किया था वो रात के 10 बजे थे, राइट? एंड विद इन अ 5 मिनट आपका रिप्लाई आया था.
Yes. So the first initial contact, I'm very easy to get a hold of.
Yes.
But from there, I always prefer to have a one-on-one, what I call a consultation with the client.
Yes.
And it's a sit-down meeting, whether it could be usually in person. If distance is an issue, I also can do Zoom or Google Meets.
Yeah.
But it's a one-on-one to explain the entire process. What is it you're truly looking for? How is the buying or selling process?
Yes.
Who are the people involved? What are the costs associated? What are the market conditions? I like to educate all clients before you even start thinking about shopping. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So once clients are educated, you know the expectations going forward. And I feel like when you're in competition, you already have all the answers.
Yeah.
You know what the expectations are, which separates you from being a average or a more seasoned or a more experienced buyer, which will get you your success faster.
Yes, exactly. Very well explained, by the way. और अगर मैं अभी ना अपना जो फोकस है ना वो एक एज अ रियल एस्टेट से रियल एस्टेट इन्वेस्टमेंट पे फोकस करती हूँ. बिकॉज आजकल लोगों को बहुत अवेयरनेस है, इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी है, रियल एस्टेट में इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी है. तो अगर देखा जाए तो क्या रियल एस्टेट में इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी चाहिए?
I think real estate is always going to be a safe investment. There's a lot of variables and a lot of different opinions, but it's basic supply and demand.
Yeah.
We know that the demand is very high, and it's been high for the last how many decades. But every year the inventory is very low.
Yeah.
So we're just dealing with very high demand and low supply. And so if you can invest into this industry, you will yield success.
Exactly.
So when you do it and what you want to invest in, that becomes the tricky part.
Yes. और ना लोग रेंटल प्रॉपर्टीज में भी बहुत इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रहे हैं, तो उसके बारे में आप क्या बोलोगे? क्योंकि मतलब बहुत से लोग ये भी होते हैं ना, क्योंकि सब अपना अपना जॉब कर रहे हैं, थोड़ी बहुत सेविंग सबके पास होती है, राइट? तो लोग ये भी पूछते हैं कि अरे यार, अगर एक अपार्टमेंट ले लूँ, उसको 10 साल के लिए मैं रेंट पे चढ़ा दूँ तो इक्विटी बिल्ड हो जाएगी उसके ऊपर, या अगर मैं ये घर ले लूँ तो ये घर पे भी एक इक्विटी बिल्ड हो जाएगी, तो उसको मैं किसी और रियल एस्टेट के इसमें मैं इसको ये कर दूं, बाय कर लूं या सेल कर दूं, कुछ भी, तो उसके ऊपर आप क्या बोलना चाहोगे?
It's a very good question. You are correct. I think when a lot of people they look to start, Winnipeg and Manitoba is a great place to start. Our affordability compared to other provinces and cities is great. So coming to Winnipeg and looking into starting building equity is a lot more accessible compared to a lot of different cities.
Exactly.
On the flip side, when you're looking at renting and starting off living in an apartment, the costs have risen so high in the last 3 to 5 years, especially. And so a lot of the time, the money you're spending in rent is very similar to what you could be paying towards a mortgage payment towards your house as well to build the equity.
Yep.
I think an important thing to talk about is if people are looking to invest in India, if they're looking to invest from India to Winnipeg, they currently can't. There's a foreign international ban until 2027.
Really?
So no one outside it, so
Oh my God, seriously?
how it works, and this could be very important. So if you're someone in India and you just want to buy real estate in Winnipeg, you can't. You just can't.
मैं आपको यही सवाल पूछने वाली थी कि अगर कोई इंडिया से अगर बंदा आता है या वो इंडिया में रहता है, राइट, और अगर उसको कैनेडियन रियल एस्टेट में अगर इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी है तो वो कर पाएंगे कि नहीं?
If you're someone in India looking just to buy a property directly from India in Winnipeg, there are restrictions. There's an international ban across Canada until January 2027.
Oh.
However, if you're someone that's from India that's traveled and that is relocated to Winnipeg, if you're here on a work permit and you have 180 days left on your actual application, you've been working for at least 2 to 3 years, or you have your permanent residency, you are then eligible to buy a property. Yes.
ओके, तो अगर फॉर एग्जांपल अगर मैं इंडिया से आती हूँ वर्क परमिट में और मेरे पास अगर थोड़ी सेविंग है और अगर मुझे मतलब मेरे फ्रेंड मुझे रिकमेंड करते हैं कि अरे प्रियंका, मतलब रेंट में जितना पैसा जा रहा है उसमें तो तुम्हारा ईएमआई हो जाएगा, तो क्या मैं घर ले सकती हूँ या मुझे घर लेना चाहिए?
The first part is always to look at and ask yourself when you're ready for the finances.
Yes.
The best advice I have is if you feel like you have money saved up, depending on your background, if you are a work permit or if you're coming with an international status, the expectations and the criteria is a little bit more challenging compared to most. Your minimum down payment would be higher if you, in most cases, which could be 25 to 30% of the purchase price of the house.
Okay.
So my best advice is to always speak to either a mortgage specialist, whether it's at a bank, a mortgage broker, to see what restrictions and challenges there are. And so the first step before anything is to get your pre-approval.
Yes, exactly.
You can think of this as going on a road trip. You would never go on a road trip without checking how much gas is in your tank. The same thing applies.
Exactly.
The same thing applies to buying a house. What am I eligible to buy? What is my purchasing power, and what can I do with that?
Nice, very well explained by the way, Sandeep. So इसमें रिस्क होता है, लाइक क्योंकि रियल एस्टेट में मतलब इट्स कंप्लीट डिपेंड ऑन कि आपका मार्केट वो उस टाइम पे कैसा है, और अभी तो बहुत न्यूज़ भी आ रही है, लाइक हाल ही की न्यूज़ है कि बैंक ऑफ कनाडा ने अपने इंटरेस्ट रेट ड्रॉप कर दिए। कभी कभी ये इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ भी जाते हैं, कभी कभी इंटरेस्ट रेट ड्रॉप भी हो जाते हैं, एंड सब ऐसे मतलब सबके ऐसे एकदम चौकन्ने हो गए कि व्हाट विल बी द नेक्स्ट स्टेप, राइट? क्योंकि इसका बाइंग पे और सेलिंग प्रॉपर्टी पे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली?
The interest rates and the fluctuation, they have a direct heavy impact onto both the buying and the selling. One of the things, as we know, there was the most recent news, there was a slight decrease of 25 basis points on the interest rate, lowering it. So what happens typically is when the interest rate's lower, people get excited as their purchasing power typically increases. They're eligible to spend more money in some cases, and their monthly expenses for their payments for their mortgages decreases.
Yep.
Consequently, when the interest rates go down, we see a driving up in the house prices.
Yes.
Once the rates drop, this allows more people to afford more houses and in some cases improve their purchasing power, which creates more competition.
Yes.
So when the rates are lower, typically we see the housing prices sell for higher, and the opposite is true. When the rates increase, the house prices will decrease because you don't have as much activity.
Exactly.
The costs are a little bit too expensive. The affordability is too expensive when the rates are higher. So consequently, you'll see house prices reduce because the action has reduced because of the higher interest rates.
Okay.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the air with the U.S. politics and the government, and even Canadian politics as well. One of the underlying things that I think is very important is Manitoba as a province. We are very stable compared to BC and Ontario.
Yes.
You can view BC and Ontario as roller coasters where they have extreme highs and lows.
I know.
With Manitoba, we're very steady, and we seem to be not as effective on a grand scheme of things when it comes to these international changes.
अभी आपने एक्सप्लेन किया बैंक ऑफ लाइक इंटरेस्ट अगर ड्रॉप हो जाते हैं या अगर बढ़ जाते हैं तो इसका क्या इम्पैक्ट होता है. तो अभी अगर थ्रू आउट नॉट ओनली द मनीटोबा बट अगर थ्रू आउट कनाडा की बात करें तो अभी हाउसिंग मार्केट का क्या सिचुएशन है.
Within Canada, we are approximately short, I'm going to say 5 million houses throughout Canada, and that's not just Manitoba. Canada has seen such a high increase of immigration.
Yes.
We have a lot of international students, especially in Manitoba, that come. Once they graduate, they tend to reside and stay in Manitoba. And so going back with supply and demand, the demand is very high, and across Canada, our supply of inventory is low. A lot of the key investments, if you're looking from an investment standpoint, I would say a lot of multifamily duplexes, triplexes, multifamilies make a lot of sense. The rental costs in Manitoba compared to the bigger provinces like BC and Ontario, it's a lot more affordable. So in terms of having steady cash flow, Winnipeg is great because we have 2 universities. So if you can get a multifamily investment home, it should strive you success.
But Winnipeg का nominee program भी है और in compare to other state, Winnipeg में सबसे पहले permanent residency मिल जाती है.
Correct, yes.
और इसी वजह से मतलब जितना मुझे पता है इसी वजह से लोग मूविंग भी कर रहे हैं. लोग मूविंग कर रहे हैं and they prefer to buy house. Right?
This is true. If you are someone that is now moving and going to be living in Winnipeg and you want to decide on purchasing, I would put a big emphasis on looking on new construction homes.
Yes.
New construction homes for someone moving to Winnipeg, it's easier to digest. There's less to worry about. You do get a warranty, and typically builders that are building these new homes are offering incentives that you normally couldn't get with other homes. So if you are someone that is coming to Winnipeg looking to purchase a home, I would put emphasis on new construction homes. Or if you're going to be looking at existing homes, try to focus on the areas where you can not only live there, but in the future, if you want that property to become an investment, typically if you're closer to the more core areas that are more accessible and have better amenities, your long-term investment will go further as well.
Exactly. तो अभी आपने लोकेशन की बात बोली तो लोकेशन का इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है. अगर मेरा घर अगर XYZ एरिया में है तो उसका मेरी घर पे मैं उसको बाय कर रही हूँ या सेल कर रही हूँ तो उस पे इम्पैक्ट होता है.
Absolutely. I think Winnipeg, born and raised, I'm a little bit biased. I love the south end of Winnipeg. I spent many years living in the south end.
Of course,
Winnipeg has a lot of great areas. The south end is a very desirable area. I think just based off of the proximity of what is located in South Winnipeg. A lot of our community, what is nearby with your universities, the schools, the south end offers a lot of that. And the same could be said about all the way in the outskirts of the far northeast as well. But with the south end, it's very established. There's a lot that it offers as well. So this is why we see a lot of demand, especially in the south end of Winnipeg.
Yes, exactly. And अभी तो काफी कंपनीज भी मूव हो गई है, राइट? नए स्कूल भी बन रहे हैं तो इसका भी इम्पैक्ट होता ही है. शॉपिंग कॉम्प्लेक्स भी बन रहे हैं. तो दैट्स रियली नाइस थिंग. ये हो गई हमारी इन्वेस्टमेंट की बातें. तो एक ना मतलब स्पेशली कनाडा में हम सबको पता है कि 4-4.5 महीने का विंटर होता है. तो अगर देखा जाए तो which is the best time to buy or sell your houses?
That is my favorite question to get asked. I would say if you look at real estate, you can think of it as the stock market. It's very
Okay.
hard to predict the stock market, and you can research it and you can study it, but no one has the crystal ball, but you have to ask yourself, when is the timing right for you?
Yeah.
The timing could be right when the rates are lower. The timing could be right when the rates are higher, actually.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
reason I say that is, like, going back to what we previously talked about, it's whenever it makes more sense for you as an individual. When are you in a position to make and start your journey in the home selling or home buying process?
Yeah.
If you're a home buyer, typically we are busier and you see more foot traffic in the spring and summer in Winnipeg.
Yes.
So if you wanted to be strategic, you could start looking in the fall and the winter, where historically we do see less foot traffic, for an example. If you're a seller, the opposite is true. If you're looking to sell your property, you see more foot traffic and more activity in the spring and the summer. However, if you were to sell in the wintertime, even though the quantity of active buyers might be less, the quality is still there.
Yeah.
Because the buyers looking in the wintertime, they're motivated and they're serious if they're willing to go and look on minus 20, minus 30 days to look at your home.
Yes.
So realistically, the answer is, when does it make the most sense for you in your life's timeline? Yes, the interest rates and what's happening with the market and the different trends may affect your final outcome. But on a grand scheme of things, it's always, when is real estate right for you at the end of the day?
That's really nice. तो एक इस पे सवाल पूछूंगी because maybe it sound like a dumb question, but अगर आप विनीपेग में रहते हो and you have enough saving, तो आप किसी भी स्टेट में घर ले सकते हो?
Yeah, so
या उसका भी कुछ क्राइटेरिया रहता है?
Yeah. So with Winnipeg, like I said, we're a very affordable province compared to most. Given if all the criteria is met, the minimum down payment you actually need is 5%.
Yes.
So you need 5% as the purchase price of the home.
But ये first time buyer के लिए, right?
Yes, for the first time home
And
buyers. Yes.
अगर आप second time buyer हो तो?
If you are a second time home buyer, the criteria changes where if you have a home and you're looking to buy your second home, let's just say for investment purposes,
Yes.
majority of times you do have to spend 20% as a down payment.
Okay.
If you are declaring the second purchase as an investment purchase.
Okay, that's really nice. So आपको क्या लगता है, अभी हाउसिंग मार्केट बहुत हॉट चल रहा है, राइट?
Yes.
थ्रू आउट कनाडा, और अभी तो रेट भी गिर गए, इंटरेस्ट रेट भी गिर गए, तो आपको क्या लगता है कि नेक्स्ट 5-10 ईयर्स में हाउसिंग का क्या मतलब एक क्या इंडस्ट्री रहेगी ये?
I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be very critical and very exciting. If we go back 5 to 10 years, a lot of people were saying, I'm going to hold off, I'm not going to buy, we're going to see a crash. Between you and I don't think in our lifetime we are going to see a housing crash, strictly based off of supply and demand.
Yes.
Like I said, Canada approximately is short as a country 5.5 million homes. And if we look in Winnipeg,
Shortage?
there's a shortage throughout
Oh
our
my
entire
God.
country. And if you look in our city in Winnipeg, here, the same could be said. Our demand is increasing as the closer we get to the spring and summer, and our inventory is low. The next 5 to 10 years, I do feel like, as projected, the appreciation will be there. To the degree of how much you appreciate will depend on what's happening with the economy and the world, of course.
Yeah.
But I still see the next 5 to 10 years being a very successful investment. And I'm confident in saying that real estate, you will see natural appreciation in the next 5 to 10 years. It will be a positive investment. So house prices to increase, your competition to increase, but your inventory to decrease, because realistically speaking, we are running out of space to build new homes. We have existing core areas that are desirable.
Yes, exactly.
We are finishing building on the newer developments in Winnipeg, which is now on the outskirts of our city, because that's where the new land is.
Yes.
But we are going to run out of land at some point in our city.
Oh.
So in the next 5 to 10 years, if you were to ask me, you will see an increase in home prices. You will see an increase on demand, but I cannot promise an increase in the supply and the inventory.
My God. So लोगों, अगर थोड़ी सी सेविंग है ना, तो घर ले लो. घर ले लो, क्योंकि उस घर पे इक्विटी जब बिल्ड होगी ना, तो आप लोग अपने खुद को ही थैंक्स बोलोगे. और मुझे लगता है ये सबसे अच्छी इन्वेस्टमेंट है, राइट? कि मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि वो बैंक में पड़ा है, कोई ज्वेलरी है, ऐसा तो कुछ भी नहीं है, या म्यूचुअल फंड भी नहीं है कि इसको देखते रहो कितना बढ़ रहा है, मार्केट कितना बढ़ा, मार्केट कितना डाउन हो गया. तो घर की इन्वेस्टमेंट सबसे अच्छी रहती है. रिस्क तो सब में थोड़ी बहुत रहती है, बट आई थिंक रियल एस्टेट इज गुड.
Real estate is good, and I think knowledge is power, and there's so many different opinions, and everyone has an opinion when it comes to real estate, is what I've learned. But the best advice I have is get educated before you start the process.
Exactly.
And when you feel ready, the first step is to look at your finances and see what am I eligible to purchase?
Exactly.
What programs are available to help me purchase, if applicable, and what are my options, and what ultimately is the best suited investment for me at the end of the day.
Wow, that's really nice. So, संदीप, आपने अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन किया रियल एस्टेट के बारे में, इन्वेस्टमेंट के बारे में. तो अगर मुझे घर लेना है या अगर आपका कोई क्लाइंट उसको अगर घर लेना है तो आप उनको क्या सजेशन दोगे कि कौन सी चीज़ घर लेने से पहले वेरीफाई करनी चाहिए, मतलब फर्नेस से लेके यूटिलिटी से लेके सब कुछ चीज़ें, और उसके बाद अगर एक हस्बैंड वाइफ की फैमिली है तो उनको कौन सा घर लेना चाहिए, या उनके कुछ बच्चे हैं या उनका छोटा पेट है तो उनके लिए क्या ठीक रहेगा, अपार्टमेंट ठीक रहेगा या बड़ा सा घर ठीक रहेगा, या वो नया बिल्ड करे घर, या फिर वो लाइक अगर 3 साल या 4 साल पुराना घर है तो वो वैसे भी ले सकते हैं.
Yes. Looking at both, first of all, I would say look at your total purchasing power and see what are you eligible to buy. Everyone wants a 3+ bedroom, 2+ bedroom house with a garage. But it depends on your total budget. When it comes to newer homes, you have less to worry about in the home, but a lot of your expenses are going to be your backyard landscaping, your fencing, appliances, furniture, and things like that. When we look at older homes, existing homes, a little bit different. There's more what I call big ticket items. You want to kind of verify the integrity and the age of the roof, the age of the hot water tank, the furnace, the age of the windows, the plumbing. Take a look at the electrical setup and how leveled and straight does the floor feel on an older home.
Right. क्योंकि roof का भी देखना पड़ता है, right?
Typical cost, very valuable information is if you have a newer home and you have an older home, over time you have things that will need to be replaced.
Exactly.
When it comes to your roof and your shingles, the average lifespan nowadays is about 25 to 30 years for your shingles. The cost to replace them varies, but a typical average could be about $7,000 to $10,000 for a new roof. You have your hot water tank and your furnace. A hot water tank, for an example, would last about 8 to 10 years. The cost to replace it would vary, but I would budget about $1,000 to about $1,500. A furnace is expected to last 20 to 25 years with proper maintenance. The cost to replace the furnace, if it is newer, would be approximately about $3,000 to $4,000. And finally, windows would be another big ticket expense that would have to be replaced. Again, lasting about 20 to 25 years to replace the windows on an entire house. Of a standard typical house, you're looking anywhere between 15 to 20,000 for all of the windows in your house.
Great, nice information, Sandeep. So, अगर फॉर एग्जाम्पल मेरे पास अगर 5 लाख कैनेडियन डॉलर है और मुझे आई एम अ फर्स्ट बायर और मुझे घर खरीदना है, तो मुझे टोटल एक्सपेंसेस कितने लगेंगे बिफोर एंड आफ्टर बाइंग द हाउस? फिर वो प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स हो गया, यूटिलिटीज हो गई, मतलब घर का EMI, सब कुछ सारी चीजें. तो could you please explain?
Yes. So of course, everyone, you'll go through the process, you will get pre-approved, you'll see your purchasing power, which is great. But don't forget to budget for these other expenses. So outside of purchasing the home, things you will need is, of course, most people will understand you will need your down payment. However, you will need access to some money in the form of what we call a initial first deposit. Now, when you're purchasing a home, there's industry standards. Typically, I would say outside of your down payment, you should have approximately $5,000 to $10,000 in liquid cash to give as a first, what we call a deposit. Now, this deposit check, it does contribute to your total down payment, but this is money that you need liquid to purchase the home as well. Once you have the home, you also want to budget for the key expenses and the utilities. So you have the home, here are the expenses. You'll have your property taxes. A typical house with 3 bedrooms, 2+ bathrooms in the south end here in Winnipeg, for an example, your annual property taxes will range in between $4,500 to about $5,500. So what? $4,500 to $5,500. You have the option to pay this monthly. You have the option to pay this once annually. The choice is yours. Outside of that, for utilities, you can't forget about your hydro and gas and your water as well. For a typical family of 4 living in a house, this will vary because it's based off of how warm and tropical you like it in your house. But for your hydro and gas, I would say budget about $200 to about $250 a month in the colder seasons. And for your water, which is based off of consumption, I would budget about $200 every 3 months as well, as you pay that quarterly, not monthly.
That's really nice. Like यही तो information हमको चाहिए. तो अगर आपकी सैलरी अगर उस रेंज में आती है, अगर आपको घर खरीदना है, सो बिल्कुल रुकिए मत, क्योंकि ये बहुत अच्छा मैं बोल सकती हूँ कि ये टाइम अभी चल रहा है, क्योंकि रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट भी गिर गया है, ड्रॉप हो गया है। सो प्लीज़, अगर आपका पहला घर है, अगर आपका दूसरा घर है, अगर आपको इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी है, तो निकलो घर से बाहर और प्लीज़ सेव करो इसमें। सो संदीप, you explain everything very nicely and very professionally. So मेरा क्वेश्चन ये आएगा नेक्स्ट का कि फॉर एग्जांपल मेरे 2 घर हैं, 2 या 3 घर है मेरे, राइट? और अगर उस पे से एक घर मैंने अगर रेंटल प्रॉपर्टी पे दे दिया है, एंड वी ऑल नो दिस इज अ टैक्स सीजन, राइट? तो उसका इनकम, मतलब ये मेरे इनकम में काउंट होगा, क्योंकि मैं रेंट तो ले रही हूँ, राइट? तो ये रेंट मेरा जो मुझे दिखाना पड़ेगा टैक्स में, मैं उसको सेव कैसे कर पाऊंगी? या ईमेल ट्रांसफर लूँ या कैश लूँ, मतलब कैसे?
My best advice is you are correct. Like if you have rental properties and you're collecting rental income, normally, yes, you will be taxed on your personal income, as that rental income does go to your personal income tax at the end of the year.
Okay.
The best advice is I would consult a CPA and I would look into registering yourself as a personal corporation. The benefit of that is you'll be taxed at the corporate rates, which will be significantly less than getting taxed at your normal tax bracket if you are earning a high income.
Exactly.
Additionally, if you do have rental properties, you can declare some tax write-offs. You can write off, in most cases, utilities. If the landlord is paying, you can write off the advertising costs, home insurance,
Yes.
Your property taxes to a degree as well. So there are tax write-offs you can do for your rental properties. But my best advice is to consult a CPA that is familiar with real estate taxes, get registered as a corporation, and then rent out your property.
एग्जैक्टली ये आपने जो अभी कॉरपोरेशन का बोला ना, इसका मैंने भी बहुत सुना है, और तो जिनके घर रेंट पे है उनके लिए ये देखना चाहिए। और आजकल बड़ा चालू है सर कि स्पेशली इन कनाडा कि ना मुझे रियल्टर बनना है, तो एज अ रियल्टर और एज अ टॉप रियल्टर इन विनीपेग आप क्या लोगों को सजेस्ट करोगे कि रियल्टर बनना क्यों अच्छा है? इसमें क्या पॉजिटिव थिंग है, क्या निगेटिव थिंग है? क्योंकि पढ़ाई तो सब में होती है, राइट? तो एज अ रियल्टर आप क्या बोलोगे? अच्छा पैसा भी है क्या इसमें?
Let's talk about the cons first.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the cons when it comes, if you're just getting into real estate or you've just become a realtor, my best advice is you need to budget and have savings built up. There's a lot of upfront costs. You have your licensing fees, your registration fees, your office fees. People think realtors earn a lot of money, and you can. The answer is yes, you can. But people forget there's a lot of hands in your pockets. There's a lot of fees we also pay, which offsets a lot of the income we also get.
लाइसेंस मेंटेन करने के लिए फी भरनी पड़ती है।
You have your office fees, you have your taxes, you have your administrative fees, your website, your business cards, your business expenses, your traveling costs. There are a lot of expenses when it comes to real estate that people forget about. And if you're a brand new realtor, there's a lot of budgeting and financial savings that you'll need to have if you first start, for an example. So that's the biggest piece of advice. If you're a brand new realtor, people forget when you sell or buy, if you help a client buy a house or sell a home, you don't get paid right away. So you need to have money saved up is the best advice I have. If I sold you a house and your possession is 45 days from now, once you take possession is when the lawyers distribute the money to all the parties, and that's when the realtors also get paid. So I'm not getting paid until approximately 45 days as well. So it's not like I sold you a house today, I'm getting paid tomorrow. I will get a check for my work 45 days approximately after the fact. So it's very important that if you are thinking about real estate, you need to have a buffer of savings and you need to go periods of time without income. However, my advice here is if you are a high volume realtor, you're working hard, the trick becomes, once it becomes lifestyle, throughout your lifestyle, you always have money coming in because you're consistently helping people buy and sell. So you're not worried about living paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly. So we don't need an exact number, but कितना कमा लेते realtor?
Similar, if not higher, to what I would have been earning if I was a top lawyer as well. So we'll just keep it at that.
No, that's really nice thing, sir. So संदीप, अगर realtor के बारे में अगर पूछा जाए तो क्या pros और क्या cons है? इस field में क्या pros और cons है?
For the pros in working in real estate, the potential you have an uncapped income potential. For how much work you put in over the years, how much income you can receive, It's unlimited. It's really up to you how much do you want to work, how successful do you want to be. So there is no cap on the income you could get as working as a realtor. Another pro is it's entrepreneurship. So you have your independence, you are entrepreneurship, you have the freedom to express yourself, to be creative, to market yourself how you want to. You're your boss. No one tells you can't wear this, you can't say this. You have a lot of business freedom.
Business freedom,
And finally, the other pro is you get to help people achieve their goals and dreams. Buying a property, it can be challenging, but it can also be very rewarding being a part of someone's big picture. It really, when you do a good job, people are satisfied, they're happy. That's the dopamine, you feel good. It's a good high natural feeling to help people achieve their goals. For the cons, I would say the biggest con about real estate is there's a lot of upfront high fees and costs to start becoming a realtor, like we talked about. So it could be very expensive to start, would be a con number one. Another con is it's a very competitive industry. There's a lot of realtors, so it's a competitive industry and you're not guaranteed success right away. That would be another con. Another con would be, and the last con is your job, it requires you to adapt and react based off of specific market conditions. Thankfully, the outlook for real estate is very positive for the next 5, 10, 15, however many years. But if you go through a complete market shift in the opposite direction, it requires you to think differently, work differently, and you need to adapt based off of the economic conditions. That would be a con as well.
Wow. So Sandeep, the question अभी ये आएगा क्योंकि लोग बहुत सारे इसमें ना कंफ्यूजन में रहते हैं. जब हम घर खरीदने जाते हैं तो सवाल आता है मॉर्गेज का, लोन का. कहाँ से खरीदना चाहिए, मतलब कहाँ से हमको लोन लेना चाहिए, बैंक से लेना चाहिए या किसी थर्ड पार्टी से, मतलब लाइक फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन होती है जैसे कि क्रेडिट यूनियन हो गई या कुछ मॉर्गेज ब्रोकर हो गया, तो उनसे लेना चाहिए या बैंक से लेना चाहिए. क्योंकि लोग ना बड़े कंफ्यूज होते हैं, बोलते हैं कि अरे बैंक बहुत टाइम लगाता है, बहुत सारे ना बैकएंड में बहुत सारे पेपर वर्क्स करते हैं, बट थर्ड पार्टी उतना पेपर वर्क्स नहीं होता है. बस कुछ चीजें चेक करते हैं और आपका लोन पास हो जाता है.
My best advice is, if you have the luxury of time, speak to 2 out of the 3. You can speak to a bank, you can speak to a mortgage broker, you can speak to a credit union. The most important piece of advice is go with who you trust, that you have that you work the best with. It could be at the bank, it could be the mortgage broker. Outside of the terms, outside of the interest rates that they're offering, one party, the bank might be offering you a great interest rate, but the terms and the conditions could be better at a mortgage broker. My best advice is speak to 2 out of the 3, see who is offering you the best interest rate, and also do not forget to ask about the terms and the conditions. For what is their contract outlining, what is the expectations for your terms and your time with that lender, and then go from there.
Perfect. Yes, that's a really nice advice. So बातें करते करते पॉडकास्ट के आखिर तक हम पहुंच गए. तो इस पॉडकास्ट का आज का आखिरी सवाल संदीप आपसे ये आएगा, बीइंग एज अ रियल्टर 6 साल से, राइट? तो अभी जो नए हमारे कुछ लोग हैं जिनको रियल्टर बनना है, उनके लिए आप क्या एक एडवाइस दोगे, या आपके बायर्स के लिए क्या एडवाइस रहेगी उनके खुद के संदीप से?
My best advice is, if you are someone that enjoys to be resilient, you like financial management, and you like the idea of entrepreneurship and helping people, then the job of a realtor and working in real estate is for you.
Yes.
If you are a buyer and a seller, the best piece of advice I have for anybody out there is who you work with matters. Who is going to be in charge of helping you navigate your buying journey or helping you promote and sell your property? It matters.
Yeah.
You need to understand that at the end of the day, this is a trust and empathy business. Someone needs to understand where you're coming from and what your goals are, as opposed to just rushing for money. So who you work with matters is the best advice I have for any buyer or seller.
Perfect, perfect. तो व्यूअर्स, आपको अपने जवाब सब मिल गए होंगे. अगर आज मिसिंग होता है ना, तो प्लीज लेट मी नो इन माय कमेंट सेक्शन कि प्रियंका नेक्स्ट टाइम अगर कोई रियल्टर आता है ना, तो उनसे ये सवाल जरूर पूछना. सो संदीप, थैंक यू सो मच कि आपने उस रात में 10 बजे मेरा मैसेज का रिप्लाई दिया. सो संदीप, थैंक यू सो मच कि आप इस शो पे एज अ फर्स्ट रियल्टर गेस्ट बन के आए. और जैसे कि आज की थीम थी ना, रियल एस्टेट स्टोरी टाइम, तो आपने बहुत अच्छी स्टोरीज बताई है, घर के बारे में, इन्वेस्टमेंट के बारे में, बैंक रेट के बारे में, इवन एट मॉर्गेज ब्रोकर के बारे में. हमने सब चीजें अच्छे से कवर की है. एंड ये छोटा सा ना एक गिफ्ट है ये
my
हमारी ऑन एयर विथ प्रियंका की टीम से आपके
Wow,
लिए।
thank you so much. This is very kind.
Yes.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yes.
I think what you're doing is great, and the information
you.
you provide is very valuable to many people. So
Yes.
thank you so much for having me.
थैंक यू सो मच एंड यस मिलते हैं जल्दी।
Yes, thank you.